Welcome back to the channel's Super Academico and Blue Eye Patch. Let us keep the reading of my book Clueders, Meire Pop Beyond the Cloud, available on Amazon. In this part, we will finish the reading of the Chapter 5 MY 15 Years and the Butterfly Effect. And then we will begin the Chapter 6, A Reminder of the Future, Games, Books, and Digital Life. Don't forget to subscribe to both channels and like and share the video. Let's go! I have to make some comments after all about this fact that I just narrated, and so the appearance of this my anonymous colleague in the history was important enough for me to narrate it here. Leandro and Marcos are incredibly physically alike. Thick dark brown hair, eyes in the same shade, very white, almost pale skin. Remember the resemblance to the vampire Edward I've mentioned a few times. Athletic, but not strong. The height difference was temporary because of the age difference, and both of them had delicate features on their faces, as if bordering the angelical, but not feminine, with smiles beautiful, sincere and shy, but without exaggeration. However, their personalities were very different. Marcos was too secretive. Although very intelligent, he did not like to expose himself. Leandro is curious, not afraid to expose himself and invariably wrong, but he is open to learning. He plays more. It's more fun and does not seem to take it too seriously. Unlike Marcos, who is always serious and self-absorbed. I don't know what all that resemblance meant, because after all it could simply be my taste for men, whether or not influenced by the Twilight series. But I realized at some moments during the party that many of my classmates were looking at each other for a long time, as if they were amazed at that apparent anomaly in the fabric of reality, as a paradox of the same person living at the same time only with different ages at the same place. In the end, I didn't want to call it that because I was happy. Leandro looked happy too. And Marcos didn't look bored or anything. He talked to me a few times. We talked about the 3 videos about Vinny Mayo, and finally the party ended. So many possibilities of events happen, but we can only have one at a time. At least that's how I remember. Is this always the way it happened? Chapter 6, A Reminder of the Future, Games, Books, and Digital Life. When you talk about memories, the idea of something from the past comes to mind. The memories of childhood. Yesterday. Last year was particularly memorable. Time and life are thus linked to a notion of linearity, events that follow each other and are soon left behind. Immutable facts of the past. Well, it's precisely this immutability that I need to put into perspective now. My gift to you, that is reading these words, can be considered both your past and your future. How to explain this? Your perception of me so far is from a girl in her 14 to 15 years chronicling events that happened some time ago. Well, by now you may have noticed that my point of view is no longer of a girl living in that moment, but a mature woman remembering the events of her life at that moment. Note, if you have not realized this already, you know now. Who is telling the story of Meire Pop at the age of 15 is another Meire, evidently older. The question that you must be asking yourself now, dear reader, is how old I really am in relation to the moment in the story of this Meire you are following. If I say that I am, at the time of your reading, between 20 and 25 years old, that means we are living at the same moment and you see events similar to mine, understand the pop culture references, and maybe even share the same tastes and opinions. But this is not the case. From the future where I'm writing to you, this friend of yours, Meire, is already close to 50 years old. Much has changed in the world from this time to the present. Some for the better, some for the worse. But the important thing is that you, reader of my blog, Digital Cloud Browser, and that have always been interested in the events related to people like you, continue to fight. Probably young also at this moment, with a spirit filled with doubts and hopes. Do not lose the impulse that leads you to accompany us, for it is in us that lies the future of humanity. My humanity now, my present, the border between light and darkness. Note: this text appeared on my blog in the middle of January. I reproduced here for you, because I realized that from now on my story gets even stranger. In the months that followed my 15th birthday, I had some fantastic moments with Leandro. He was the dream boyfriend, and he made it quite enjoyable the rest of the school year I had. The requirements were increasing, but I was able to pass with a certain tranquility through all matters. Marcos and I continued to do lots of work together, and he never had any of those episodes of sudden absences again. It was as if the end of our courtship had reconnected him with his original intelligence talents. He finished the year with the best marks in the class in all disciplines. My parents were also quite comfortable with my new relationship, despite the age difference. 2 years does not seem like much, but when you are a teenager it still makes a lot of difference to have 15 and a boyfriend of almost 18. In addition to the first film in the Divergent series that you already know that I watched with Leandro, and have already seen my review of it compared to Hunger Games, another film from the same line that rolled in that time was the one of Maze Runners, already mentioned in some debates on pop culture, both in my blog and in other places of the cloud, except in this case the central character is a boy and not a girl. I remember when we were watching, Leandro and I were already beginning to think that there was some kind of plot by the people of Hollywood to see and comment on films with the same dramatic and thematic structure, thus promoting more and more accessions in my blog. But Leandro had helped me understand that the mentality of Hollywood producers was much more simple. They made films about the same things because these were the stories that were drawing the audience's attention at that moment. It made a lot more sense to think that the books on which these films were based had rather a connection because the authors of these stories came from a context of female self-affirmation, popularization of science fiction and fantasy among young women, and especially a sense of dystopia in relation to the future.
I hope you have enjoyed this reading. Continuing to support the channel's Super Academico and Blue Eye Patch. Subscribe, like and share the video. Bye-bye.